I had been thinking about and wondering about the Japanese scallop culture for a long time. And when the opportunity came up, I jumped on it. I thought it was going to be a great opportunity to have a real intimate look at kind of what they do.
It intrigued me because I know that their techniques are different than ours. So I was really curious to get there and interact with the fishermen and learn about it.
Scallop aquaculture practices, mostly seed sowing on the island of Hokkaido in northern Japan. We traveled to visit a harvesting cooperative, one of 14 along the northern coast of Hokkaido.
The people in Takoro, at Takoro Fisheries Cooperative, they were so welcoming to us and open with their operations. There's kind of like somewhat of a kinship, I think, between fishermen and sharing these sort of technologies.
The Japanese have been cultivating scallops for hundreds of years.
The whole town is situated around the fishery in that area, supporting the cooperative.
They have really great habitat for scallops, nice, good cold water, clean gravel bottom. And they also have these great saltwater lakes that are right near shore. They're great for the grow out of the juveniles.
The whole system is predicated upon wild spat collection, and I thought that was just totally intriguing of how they collect their own wild spat, both from that area but also in adjacent areas.
And that's something that we don't do. It's all natural, Mother Nature we count on.
And so they're deploying spat bags out in the water column, both offshore off the coast, but also in a tidal bay.
Very simple equipment, but sophisticated means of gathering spat, setting it and moving it as juveniles into grow-out areas.
And there's a lot of trading back and forth between different cooperatives with the spat, depending on what the needs are of each cooperative.
Here in our fishery, you get a permit and you get access to all federal waters. There you live in a town and you get to join a co-op and you get to access your local waters.
There are 142 members.
And every member of the co-op is responsible to collect a certain number of that seed every year.
Kind of the aquaculture piece is they'll take the spat that's collected in the wild and grow them up in lantern nets for a couple years. And so that gives them the control to put the spat in the best places for growing. And when those animals get to be about 2 years old, or about, I think, 50 millimeters in size, one of two things happen. One approach is to use a traditional technique called ear hanging, where they will drill a hole through the ear of the scallop and suspend it from a long line.
They have a whole series of lines and buoys, and they hang the seed from those and let them start growing. And they grow them for about 2 years.
That technique is beneficial because you get the animal up in the water column, there's a lot more food resources there, and the growth is fast. The downside is that it's a lot more labor intensive. So I think from my understanding that was a relatively small portion of the grow out that they do, but the advantages are they knock about a year off the other techniques and they get, I think, a much bigger animal so they can serve a larger size class of scallops in their product line. The majority of the animals, once they come out of the lantern net, will get distributed on the bottom, and that's typically outside of the embayment area, out in the open ocean.
Each co-op has their own section of bottom that they're responsible to manage, and they partition it into different zones.
They have 4 different areas.
Doing a pattern where they pretty evenly coat the bottom.
The primary way that the government is working with the harvest cooperatives are through lease terms. So they have 10-year lease terms of a particular plot of seabed.
When we see 1 scallop per square meter, we consider our fishery healthy. They're functioning at a level of 9 animals per square meter in stocking densities and grow-out densities.
And like a farmer in his field.
One year they're harvesting scallops in an area. After they're done harvesting those scallops, the next year they're seeding that area with scallops. And then they're allowed to grow for the next 3 years, and then they harvest them again. So
there, they don't even have outside regulations telling how much they can or cannot catch because it's farming.
And the advantages of that is they can do a lot more volume, they can do a lot bigger numbers.
You know, one of those 4 areas is producing about 1 to 1.5 amounts as an access area trip for us, like 9 million pounds.
The downside is the growth is slower and it's exposed to kind of open ocean conditions. So the combination of those two, it seemed like was the general approach.
They take the whole scallop, everything scallop, gut, shell, everything, and they bring them right back in and chuck them on land, put it right on a truck scale, and it's done.
As they were picking the pile of scallops, they were also taking starfish and removing them from the pile. They weren't discarding them over the side, but they were retaining them on the vessel to bring back to shore and dispose of.
I mean, they have nailed this. It is, there is not a wasted move.
Almost 100% dedication to that business and that cooperative.
The sun rises at 3:30 in the morning. So they're, you know, and they're out at 4.
So our industry got the sea scallop fishery straightened out, turned around, you know, working with collaborative research with scientific partners and with the government. We've done a really good job getting to where we are. We've reached sustainability. Overfishing is over. You know, so now the things that we work on are bycatch reductions, gear improvements, reducing footprint and carbon loading.
We were very fortunate to have strong year classes in 2012 and 2013. Since then, we haven't seen that really remarkable recruitment. And so the idea of being able to possibly supplement our wild harvest techniques using some aquaculture practices is one way that we could apply what we learned in Japan into the U.S. fishery.
It would have to be an American solution to our particular problems, but there's a lot of lessons to be learned.
I can see us doing this here. It's going to take some research, it's going to take some trials, some pilot programs, but I think we need to start to apply these kinds of things to our fishery.
The biggest lesson is that we don't have to rely on natural recruitment, that we can, in an intelligent way, supplement even what we're doing now, and that it's possible to even out the natural cycles.
I think we could double our yields without using significantly more seabed areas.
I think there's opportunity for this kind of practice to be folded into scallop fishery management in the United States.
As far as the council goes, I think we need to start trying Nantucket light scallops, the dwarfs, and try to transplant them. I think that's really important. Maybe doing something with growing scallops in an area.
The council, through the Scallop Fishery Management Plan, has established a research set-aside program. On an annual basis, we set aside 1.25 million pounds of scallops a year to fund research.
We could maybe use some of those funds to pay for grow out of scallops and seeding of areas, and then the fishery as a whole could benefit.
They took the time to enhance their fishery, and I believe with the same kind of dedication, both from our regulators, our scientific community, and our fishing community, we can make the same kind of strides and improvements that I witnessed in the Japanese fishery.